Welcome to IVF This, episode 198, IVF and Survivor's Guilt.
Welcome to IVF This. I'm your host, Emily Ginn. After 10 years of primary and secondary infertility due to both male and female factor infertility, I am now the mother to 3 beautiful miracles. I am married to my favorite person in the world. I'm a social worker, a life coach, and an IVF warrior. I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and emotions during your IVF journey, to break free from anxiety and regain control of your life, even in the midst of infertility. I'm going to teach you how to say IVF this to how we think about, talk about, and experience infertility. Let's go.
Hello, my beautiful friends. I hope you're all doing so well. We've got a fun episode for you today. Well, fun in that it's a good topic to talk about. And I just want to take a moment and reflect. We are but a few short episodes shy of 200, which is crazy. It's insane. It's amazing. And I just want to thank you all for being here, for staying here, and for recommending the podcast. And I want to encourage you to continue to do that. If something really resonates for you, or someone else is going through maybe something similar, please don't hesitate. Please expand our IVF This community so that we can reach more people and let them know that they don't have to do infertility the way that most of us have done it. Just kind of white-knuckled and hoping for the best. But we can actually learn skills and techniques and understand our mind better so that we can navigate through this very, very uncomfortable terrain without so much emotional upheaval. And that's my hope, and that was what kind of drew me to creating this podcast. So, you guys just keep doing what you're doing, and you guys are what keeps this going, and that's what I appreciate. So, today we're going to talk about something that doesn't get named very often in the infertility space, but I promise you, if you've been on this journey for any length of time, you have felt it to some degree. Maybe you just didn't have a word for it. So we're talking about survivor's guilt. And I know that phrase probably conjures up something really specific for most people. Someone died and you're the one left here, and somehow that feels like your fault. And that's the version most of us know. Like, I want to make sure that that's understood. But today I want to take that concept and bring it somewhere a little closer to home for us. Because I think that it's happening in the IVF infertility community all the time. We just haven't been calling it that. And I know when I say survivor's guilt, some of you might immediately be thinking like, oh, that's not me, or that sounds super dramatic. So let me tell you what I mean, and then you can tell me if it sounds familiar or not. You get a positive pregnancy test, and instead of feeling purely, unambiguously happy, you kind of feel this weight because your best friend is still cycling, or your group chat is still full of people waiting for results. And so your joy can feel complicated. Or we can flip it. Your friend gets her positive and you are genuinely happy for her and also devastated for yourself. And then you make that devastation mean something about you, because what kind of person feels bad when their friend gets good news? That is how survivor's guilt can look in IVF. And it shows up, I think, more often than we recognize or would be willing to acknowledge. So let's get into it. Survivor's guilt originally comes from trauma research. It is first documented in war veterans and disaster survivors, people who lived through events that others didn't. And the core experience is, why did I get to survive when someone else didn't? Now, here's the thing I want you to hold on to. It's not logical. It was never supposed to be logical. Survivor's guilt isn't about math or fairness, even though it very much feels like it's about fairness. What it's about is relational. It's about belonging. Humans are deeply, deeply wired to organize themselves in groups. We track where we stand in relation to the people around us. So when outcomes within a group diverge, When some people get the thing and others don't, the brain doesn't just notice, it tries to resolve it. It looks for an explanation. In the absence of one that makes sense, it turns the discomfort inward. And that's the seed of survivor's guilt. So, I love the good neuroscience layer. It's one of my favorite things about this podcast is getting to talk about one of the things that I nerd out on very regularly. So let's talk about what's actually happening in your brain in those moments. So your social comparison network is always running. There are areas of your brain specifically devoted to tracking fairness, belonging, and where you stand relative to the people around you. Your brain, is constantly taking in information about where your experience compares to someone else's. And when there's a moral incongruence, when someone is suffering while you're doing well, those areas start to fire up. That uncomfortable feeling, it's not a character flaw. That's your brain doing what it's designed to do, exactly what it's designed to do. It also means that your empathy circuitry is working overtime. Your brain has empathy circuits that literally allow you to feel other people's pain, not as a concept, but as a physical experience. So when you have a close friend who is still struggling with infertility while you're pregnant, your nervous system is registering her pain, not metaphorically, actually, which is part of why celebrating can feel physically unsafe. Your body is holding two things at once, and it doesn't quite know what to do with them. The third thing that's happening is your fairness instinct is being triggered. Humans have a deeply hardwired sense of fairness. And here's the wild thing. That instinct fires even when the outcome is good for us. When something feels unfair, even in our favor, the brain will still flag it, which is where the thoughts, I don't deserve this, or it should have been her, or it should have been them, that's where that comes from. So I want to break this idea of survivor's guilt down into a few different versions of how it can look, because it doesn't look the same for everybody. And even the examples that I offer might not feel super true, like might not match your expectations or your experience completely. I just want you to get a sense of the idea behind it, not necessarily find parallels. So the version one, you're the one that gets pregnant. You get the pregnancy test, and instead of just feeling happy, you start managing everyone else's feelings before you're even allowing yourself to feel your own. You think twice before posting, you soften your language, you check in with friends who are still in it before you share anything. You minimize your excitement, almost like if you feel it too big, it's an act of cruelty towards the other people that are still waiting. You're shrinking your joy to stay emotionally aligned within your community. And I want to say something very direct here. That impulse, the wanting to protect people, the empathy that makes you even think about this, that's actually a really beautiful human thing. And it can kind of become a trap because you cannot sustain your relationship with your experience by permanently or attempting to edit it around everyone else's. There's version two, when you're the one still struggling. This is where it gets interesting because survivor's guilt has this flip side that not enough people talk about, because the person still in IVF feels guilty towards the person who succeeded. You feel jealous, which you're allowed to feel. Acting on it is different. Feeling it is innocuous. Feeling is, there's no morality to feeling an emotion, right? I know if you've been on TikTok recently, there's been this really big discourse around feeling jealous. Jealousy as an emotion, there's no moral judgment. It's just like anger or resentment or joy or excitement. They're not good or bad, they just are. When you act out of jealousy, when it becomes part of the behavior, that's when it becomes a different discussion. But for the purposes of us, when you feel jealousy and then you immediately feel guilty about your jealousy, like I should be happier for her. What kind of friend am I? She's worked so hard for this, and I'm here making it about me. So now both people could potentially be feeling guilty. The pregnant one feels guilty that maybe they're being pregnant. The one that's still cycling feels guilty for not being able to fully celebrate. And nobody is actually talking to each other about any of it. No one wins. And the relationship, the very thing that could hold both people, starts to strain under the weight of what no one is saying. And then the third version, the community container. There is something I see a lot in group chats, support groups, online communities. One person gets pregnant and another person's transfer failed, right? Another is waiting on results. And the emotional landscape becomes incredibly complicated to navigate. The person with good news doesn't know whether or not to share or how to share. The person with bad news doesn't want to take anything away from anybody else's joy. And everyone is managing everyone else's experience. And in the middle of all of that management, nobody's actually getting supported, right? And this needs to be said clearly. Survivor's guilt does not mean you are ungrateful. It does not mean you're selfish. It does not mean you are a bad friend. It does not mean you lack empathy. In fact, and I want you to really hear this, it actually means the opposite. It means your empathy system is highly active. It means your brain is working hard to stay connected to the people who are still suffering. It means you care deeply about fairness and about the people who are still walking on this road. The presence of survivor's guilt is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is evidence that you are a person that gives a damn. Survivor's guilt, if left unchecked, leads to emotional self-punishment, just like any emotion that is left unchecked. And it happens in very specific and sneaky ways. People start trying to even the scales. They minimize their joy, they hide their good news, they emotionally shrink themselves. They refuse to celebrate milestones because celebrating feels like a betrayal towards someone else's pain. But I need you to understand that that doesn't actually help anyone. Your suffering does not reduce their suffering. You holding back from joy does not make their journey easier. It just adds more pain to the collective system. And at some point, it starts to look less like empathy and more like punishment you are assigning yourself for something you didn't even do. Think about it like this. If your friend got pregnant and you were still cycling, would you want her to hide that? Would you want her to feel guilty? Would you want her to shrink her joy so that you could feel less alone? Most people, when they really sit with that question, say no, because we don't want that for people that we love, which means we also probably need to stop doing it to ourselves. All right. What the hell do we actually do with this, right? The goal is not to eliminate survivor's guilt. I don't think that that's realistic, and honestly, I'm not sure if that's even the right goal. The goal is to expand your emotional capacity so that you can hold more than one thing at a time. Grief for someone else's pain and gratitude for your own outcome. Joy at your positive results and sadness that your friend is still waiting. These are not opposites. They are not in conflict with each other. They can exist at the same time, in the same body, and in the same moment. It's not emotional contradiction. That is emotional maturity. It's not betrayal. It is at its heart complexity. And I also want to offer you this quick reframe. Your joy does not steal from someone else's chances. This is not a zero-sum game. IVF is not a finite pie. Someone else getting pregnant does not reduce your probability. Your pregnancy doesn't reduce theirs. This isn't competition, even though it can feel like one when you are all in the same waiting room emotionally. So here's a few things that I want to offer you. Kind of a 3 steps just to kind of check in with yourself, right? So the first thing you're going to do, as always, is just to name it, clock it, whatever, right? Just saying to yourself, I think I'm feeling survivor's guilt. Or if you can't make that connection, I think I'm feeling guilty. That can really do something significant for your nervous system. Naming reduces the likelihood of a shame spiral. It interrupts the loop. You go from I'm a terrible person to this is a thing that happened and it's happening to me right now. And that shift matters. The second one is allowing for emotional complexity. Instead of trying to force yourself into one clean feeling, try giving yourself permission to say both, I feel happy and I feel sad. I feel excited and I feel scared. Your nervous system can do both. It might be uncomfortable at the beginning, but discomfort is not the same thing as danger. And the third thing is, and this is really important for us in the IVF community, staying connected instead of disappearing. A lot of people after success pull away from their infertility community, not because they want to, but because they feel guilty about being there. And what ends up happening is both people lose the relationship. If it feels safe for both of you, staying present often is the more healing choice. You don't have to have all the words or the right words. Often it's just about showing up and being present. So survivor's guilt is what happens when empathy and unfairness collide. It's not a sign that there is something wrong with you. It is a sign that you care deeply about the people who walk this road with you and that you're still holding them, even when the outcomes are different. So if you're in the middle of this right now, or on either side of it, right? I hope that this episode helped to feel a little bit less alone, a little less like you should be doing it better or feeling differently. You're not. You're doing exactly what a human in this situation would be doing. You're going through something really hard and really complex and really dynamic. And that's worth taking that time and connecting with yourself and reconnecting with your community. So that is what I have for you today, my friends. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of IVF This. If you like what you've heard, click subscribe and follow to make sure you don't miss an episode. And if you want to learn more, head over to www.ivfthiscoaching.com to learn how to work together.